floor by going down the main staircase out on the front door and across the wall in front of the City Hall. This meeting is being live streamed to the Council YouTube pages and will be available after the meeting. Please, your speakers use the microphones at all times, speak directly into the microphone, and with participation, please mute their microphones when not speaking. Introductions, we'll go around to say who we hear, who's here and who's not, and I'll start to my left.
Councillor Mike Sanders.
One on you.
I'm Councillor Julie Young.
Okay.
Councillor Judith Lowick.
Councillor Richard Laws.
Councillor Jenny Knight.
Councillor Emma Hamilton.
And we'll go around the officers.
Good morning, my name is David Parkin, I'm the Development Manager for the City Council.
Thank you.
Kieran Yates, Highways Development Management Officer, Norfolk County Council Highways.
Thank you. And at the front.
Good morning, I'm Joe Simon. I'm the Planning Officer for this case.
Laura Emerson, Development Management Team Leader.
Leonie Berwick, Senior Committee Officer.
Thank you very much. That's gone through that lot. Members of the committee may use electrical devices to access their meeting papers, and visitors are welcome to use their mobile phones and other devices, including cameras. But please use them discreetly, set them to silent, and do not voice or camera play functions. We have a short break at 12 o'clock, and between 1 and 2 if there's any business left to be resolved. Thank you, and I have moved the agendas, tweaked that a bit, so we're doing Ransom Road first, Orwell second, the former Florida site, or suicide on Digging Road third, and then the BT boxes. So we'll start off with the first one, which is Ransom Road, and I'll ask our planner to take it through the report. Thank you.
Sorry, declarations of interest.
Oh, sorry. Declarations of interest first. Anyone?
Jenny.
Jenny?
Yes, sorry. On item 3, I suppose now, the shoe factory, I'm reading a letter on behalf of the resident, so I will excuse myself.
Thank you very much for that. Any other declarations of interest? No, thank you.
Sorry, just to speak over here. Declarations of interest, what is that? Is that what we're here to talk about?
So declarations.
Well, they're predetermined or something like that. If you already told everyone I'm going to vote against this or I'm going to vote in favour of this, you're predetermined, so you're not allowed to be in meeting.
Members only.
Yeah, for members only. Yeah.
For councillors.
Yeah. Apologies for absence.
Yep, Chair, we've had apologies for absence from Councillors Kane, Fox, Haynes, Stuteley and Smith, and Councillor Young is substituting for Councillor Kane.
Thank you. Now we move on to the first planning application. And Vicky, would you like to take us through the papers, please?
Thank you, Chair. The first application seeks planning permission for a new 2-story 4-bedroom dwelling with some excavation works to create off-street parking. That's the site plan. The site is approximately 2.5 kilometers west to the city center, within the curtilage of 11 Ransom Road, which is a 3-story 2-bedroom house with a garage, accessed by this private road, which is named Ransom Road. The site is currently used as a residential garden with ornamental plants and trees typical to this area. It sits between the 7 Ransom Road and 11 Ransom Road to the east, facing the private road, which is Ransom Road, located at the south. As you can see, that's the site plan, and this is the existing house, 11 Ransom Road, and that's the 7, and that's the private road. The topography of the site slopes from north to south. with Heathside House located at a higher elevation, which is comprising of residential flats. The land at the southern end is retained at about 1.8 meters by a brick retaining wall over here, and the site lies in the Norwich conservation area. As you can see, this is the view from the private road towards north, and that's the existing building, the 11 Ransom Road, and that's neighboring 17. And that's the view of site from the top, looking towards south. As you can see, it's currently used as a residential garden. And that's the private road in front of the site. This is the site, and that's the road here. And that's the junction where this private road meets the telegraph line. And that's another view of the site from the south, and as you can see the Heathside house over the top. And you can see a gentle slope sloping towards the south. These are the other neighboring 17 Ransom Road, and that's how it's been viewed from the site. And this is how it's been viewed from the road. That's the 7 Ransom Road. This is the boundary wall of the site and the neighboring one. This is the existing house on site, the 11 Ransom Road, and this is the front elevation from the private road. So you can see if you can have a driveway and garage. Coming to the proposal, the original design was for a 3-story 4-bedroom house with a double garage. This has been amended to a 2-story 4-bedroom dwelling, with the garage being removed following the comments from the consultation officers and objection from the neighbors. The site is in a residential area with adequate access, and it complies with the policy standards. The principle of residential development here is acceptable. Moving to the design, the current proposal is a 2-story with an L-shaped plan featuring gabled roofs. That's the elevation. The height is now 1.5 meters lower than what initially proposed. The dwelling maintains a 2-meter offset from east and west boundaries. To reduce the excavation, and the double garage has been removed from the proposal. The scale and the massing are now coherent with the surrounding buildings and the street elevation, which is confirmed by the conservation. In response to previous landscape objections, the footprint has been reduced significantly, creating more space for landscaping. The design now includes a front garden and a reasonably sized rear garden. Concerns were raised regarding overlooking, particularly towards the neighboring 7 Ransom Road from the first floor bedroom. This is the particular bedroom which had raised concerns, and that's the neighboring 7 Ransom Road. And this particular window has a potential amenity concern. So the west facing window, this particular one, will be obscure glazed, secured by condition, and roof lights over the bathrooms and bedrooms are unlikely to cause amenity issues. There were concerns about loss of outlook from the Heathside house, which is located on the top north of the site. However, the Heathside is located at a higher elevation, and the site slopes naturally. The minimum separation distance between the two are about 16 meters. Therefore, it is unlikely to restrict the outlook for the existing or future homes. The amended design has satisfied offset from the boundaries and is unlikely to overshadow neighboring properties. The proposed access is private road and not an adopted highway. Increased use from the development is unlikely to create adverse traffic issues. Concerns from the neighbors were raised about the potential damage in the private road during construction. The applicant has submitted a construction management plan covering the operations and mitigation to the road. As the access road is privately owned, the maintenance arrangements will fall to the landowners or relevant parties. As the application predates to the introduction of statutory BMG, the 10% gain requirement does not apply. However, site-specific ecological enhancements under DM6 will be secured by condition. Subject to the conditions in the report, we recommend approval for planning permission.
Okay. Sorry, I missed that last bit. Well, we move on to speakers now. We've got quite a few. And the first one is Tanya Johnson. And you have 9 minutes because you're speaking on behalf of 2 other residents as well. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I am a flat owner of Heathside House as well as a joint freeholder of the building. As such, the statement represents the views of my fellow freeholders, Mr. Sharp and Mr. Billing, who are unable to attend today, and I thank the Chair for the extra time. We wish to raise our objections under the following 7 points. Point 1. Heritage and historical setting. Heathside House was built in 1874 and was for many years the home of James Sackville, founder of the local and much loved Start Right Shoes. It is listed as a house of notable historic importance in Norwich City Council's own Thornbridge Conservation Appraisal and sits within a well-known area of Roman occupation and the Kets Hill Rebellion. The proposed development would obscure Heathside House completely from this part of the road and would negatively impact the current open and natural aspect of the ridge, as well as the historic setting. This would appear to be in contradiction to your own conservation appraisal and stresses the physical contribution to the local area that Heathside House currently holds. Please see my photo appendix 1. We don't believe that the new development meets policy 3 of the GNLP. No heritage impact assessment has been provided as part of the planning application. Norwich City Council's landscape officer has himself raised an objection, quoting that the loss of positive landscape character, comprising positive green infrastructure of publicly accessible natural open spaces linked to private gardens through mature vegetation. Point 2. Loss of privacy, noise and air pollution. Contrary to the planning document submitted, we feel strongly that the proposed development would have a significant negative impact on our privacy and the peaceful enjoyment of our shared property. We would have direct views into the proposed property, we would overlook their garden at the back in its entirety, and anyone living in the development would equally have views into our homes. Given the minimal amount of amenity space outlined in the plans and the close proximity to our home, we are also concerned about the impact of additional noise and air pollution for Heathside House residents, which include young children. Because Heathside House is slightly more elevated, this would include a particular risk from any flues, barbecues, stoves, etc. Point 3. Loss of light and light pollution. In contradiction to the committee report, we remain convinced that this application would have a major impact on the level of light available to our property, as well as the overall ambience and vista. The Council's planning officer declined 2 invitations from me to meet at Heathside House, so we are unsure on what basis he has reached this conclusion. Whilst the plot does offer a slight gradient, any drop is mitigated by the boundary wall to Ransom Road, and the ground floor properties would get notably less light than they do now, which would result in residents feeling enclosed and overshadowed. The application would inevitably introduce new artificial lighting, which would pollute the natural darkness that we currently enjoy. Mr. Sharp has specifically stated that any development would lead him to consider moving, given that the sense of openness and connection with nature was a primary factor in his purchase of his flat. Point 4. Impact on nature. With a background in conservation and sustainability, I have serious concerns over the impact this development would have on any natural environment around Heathside House. A primary concern relates to the damage to our ancient trees and their extensive root structures during building works, as well as to local wildlife. We have reviewed the ecological assessment made by the DWA Ecology on the 7th of December 2024. Unfortunately, the more recent assessment conducted in July of this year and mentioned in the committee report has not been shared or uploaded to the Council's website for us or any other interested parties to review. We would ask if this could be shared before any decision is made, as any application made by the applicant would naturally have any inherent bias. For example, there is no mention of the large colony of bats that frequent Heathside House, roosting in the boundary trees and buildings adjacent to the proposed plot in the summer months. These would have been in hibernation when the original assessment was made. A couple of hedgehog tunnels and the removal of bushes and trees outside of breeding season does not in our minds mitigate the loss of habitat of this vital green corridor. We can confirm that we regularly have hedgehogs, foxes and muntjac deer visiting the gardens of Heathside House and Ransom Road, which would also be impacted negatively by such a development. And we would ask why this build should be exempt from the new biodiversity netting compliance. Point 5. Inappropriate design in a conservation area. In our shared opinion, the proposed property is not in keeping with the surrounding area in either size, design, use of space or pattern of development. Norwich City Council's Urban Conservation and Design Department echoed our concerns on the scale, stating that this would affect the landscape character and appearance of the surrounding conservation area. Ransom Road is used by the community, offering a beautiful, nature-filled walk, unique in its setting so close to the city. The impact of this application would impact more than just us as residents. DM1 Sustainable Development Principles for Norwich state that the development proposals will be expected to protect and enhance the physical, environmental and heritage assets of the city and to safeguard the special visual and environmental qualities of Norwich for all users. We believe that the proposed design is in direct contradiction to this policy. The Council's Landscape Department also concurs that the plot appears constrained and believe the proposal would result in the proposal would result in insufficient garden space. Point 6, the wall. We have concerns about the integral structure of our historic wall from construction and site traffic. The historic walls were a historical asset to the road and secure the land and boundary from subsidence. Construction may negatively impact the integrity of the wall structure and will have a knock-on impact on the land, Heathside House, and at worst case lead to subsidence. Point 7, access to site. Groundwork and excavation will require significant machinery to access the plot on Ransom Road. Ransom Road is a single track with no turning element. Both entrances to the road have significant overhanging tree coverage, including 2 large oak trees on the boundary of Heathside House. How would these trees be navigated without damage? There is no mitigation offered in the construction plan. Please could I have photos appendix 2 and 3. We believe this historic road to be of hogging construction and so not built to sustain any heavy machinery or construction vehicles. One of our major concerns is that it is very susceptible to erosion. We also have queries around drainage, and this is not just a matter for residents but should be of a planning consideration, particularly as ownership of the actual road is unclear, and we, as residents, object. Construction would cause unavoidable disruption to residents and restrict access for extended periods of time. We do not agree that the small excavation area proposed for parking would provide equitable space to mitigate disruption. Point 8, my conclusion. To conclude, this isn't simply a case of not in our backyard, but more a case of ensuring the integrity of national and local policies that are put in place to safeguard heritage assets and environmental conservation. We jointly urge you to consider this application delivering more harm than is warranted by the addition of 1 4-bedroom property, which we feel to be over-designed and out of keeping within its environmental context. We respectfully request that you refuse this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Invite Anne Church to speak.
Julianne Church, sorry.
Julianne Church, sorry about that. Speaking objection to the application on behalf of Martha Gibson. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
My objections for Marita basically reflect everything that Tiffany's just said. I'm looking at her original letter to oppose the site, covers all the same aspects of what has been said. The disruption of the road, for me personally, is of great concern since the property is directly opposite our back access to our house, which is used constantly, both for myself and my husband, in use of the studio, which is also built at the back of our house. It will obstruct our access to using that, where all our work equipment is stored. We are constantly in and out of that access onto the road. Also to reflect on Tilly's comments of how narrow that road is, I don't see how any construction vehicles really can access that road without damage. And obviously the house that is being considered to be built is right in the middle of that road, so it would affect every single person that lives on that road.
Okay, thank you very much. I now invite Harry Hunt to speak, and you have 3 minutes as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one main area of concern, and that's regarding the road, although I do agree with everything that has been mentioned previously. My main concern is when vehicles involved in an improved development cause damage to an unadopted road. Firstly, I'd like to know who is legally responsible for repairing the damage that will inevitably be caused by that, and which authority ensures that those repairs are carried out. I'm sure you'd agree that it wouldn't be fair or reasonable that cost for the damage should be absorbed by the residents who haven't actually caused the damage. The area outside my own property alone is around 140 square metres, so the financial implications could be substantial. And also, it could even be long term, we will know for a while if there's any damage to the overground parking on top of a road that is actually just a hogging road and not a tarmac road. I would like really the council to confirm who the responsibility of the road belongs to, and the enforcement and the process we should follow so this matter could be handled fairly and transparently. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And ask for Cindy Hearn to speak, and you have 3 minutes as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you mind if I stand?
Yes, whatever.
I just feel better standing. Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. I think what we're forgetting in all the bits that we're covering, and they're all important, is that this is a conservation area. This is Thorpe Ridge Conservation Area. What is a conservation area? It is defined as an area of notable environmental or historical interest or importance, which is protected by law. Protected by law against undesirable change. Thorpe Ridge Conservation Area came into being in January 1991. I have been a resident of East Side House for over 20 years, and I am so blessed. I am so blessed to live in a conservation area because of the abundance of the wildlife. But also, you know, I'm sure we know, we're living in very dark times. We are living in dark times. Our decisions are important. Every conservation land that we protect is like a light that feeds us. Those people that walk down the road or that appreciate the nature or the nature that is abundant because of us caretaking is so essential to life. You can't just keep ticking boxes and taking away things. You have to honor what there is. You have to honor this space When we say something is a conservation area, it is a conservation area. And we are protecting it. We are protecting it from undesirable change. That house, there is nothing desirable. It will not add to the environment. It will take away. To be honest, what we have to consider when we create a conservation area, that we are the caretakers. So I ask that we care. We don't take. The Native Americans, when they had to make big decisions, they would call a council. And in the council, they would have the women, the children, the elders, and they would make their decisions based on what effect would that decision have from 7 years hence, from 7 generations hence. We can look at what this is going to have next year, and that is not. That robs us of the life that it is. So I implore you, listen to what we're saying, but know that it's our responsibility. It is our responsibility to be the caretakers, to protect the land, those pockets of peace that we have created. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll ask Alistair Howie to speak on. He's the applicant. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, thank you. My name is Alistair Howie. I'm with Howie Architects. We are the agents acting on behalf of the applicant. We submitted the application back in January 24. So we've been on this journey through the application for coming up to 2 years. During that time, we have coordinated with the planning department and we've revised and submitted amendments to the design in order to meet concerns raised by both neighbours and consultees. We now feel that we've arrived at a design which looks to minimise the size and scale of the proposed property as far as is possible. We've looked for a design aesthetic that uses natural cladding in a manner that we feel is sensitive. During the application, as well as submitting amendments to the design, we've submitted a design and access statement. We have, in fact, submitted a heritage impact assessment. We've submitted a construction management plan, which undertakes to carry out reinstatement and repairs of any damage to the access road, which my understanding is that would be made a condition of any approval. We've submitted an agricultural report, an ecology report. We've carried out biometric calculations, nutrient neutrality calculations, which have been passed on to the planning department and subsequently to Natural England. Just some further context to that. My clients, the applicants, have had the house in the family since 1971. The applicant's late husband purchased the property then with the understanding that number 9 could be developed as a second plot. There's actually a letter which is testament to that included in the design and access report. Our understanding is that Heathside House sold the plot for housing in 1959 for the development of 14 plots, which actually included, as can be seen in the plan that was associated with that sale at the time, it included number 9 as a separate plot. We think there was planning permission for that, which has
inevitably lapsed, but demonstrates that there was certainly the intention for this plot to be developed. The existing garden wall, we've addressed design concerns with the conservation officer. Also worth noting that the existing condition of that wall is in structural disrepair. It might be to the point we haven't had it investigated where I think if it's left in its current condition, it may be subject to collapse. Visions outlined changes that we've made to the size of the proposed development, reducing this by 29 metres square from the original submitted application, reducing the height of the ridge by 1.6 metres, and increasing the size of the plot by 42%. There was an existing beech tree on the site of number 11, number 9, proposed number 9, which became diseased and has subsequently been removed. That tree was significant in terms of obscuring views and reducing natural light. So we feel that's mitigated. Thank you for those points. That concludes points I wanted to raise.
Thank you very much for that. I'll go back to the committee officer. Is there anything you want to come back at the moment to ask any questions? What been asked? No, thank you. Move on to members. Any questions you'd like to ask Councillor Young? Norwich?
Yes, so the applicant said that a heritage impact assessment was submitted. However, point 12 on page 104 says that one wasn't submitted. Which is true?
Let me just get to the point you're referring to. I think that's in the consultation comment from Conservation Design. On initial receipt of the application, there was no heritage impact assessment. A heritage impact assessment was submitted later on in the process and reviewed by the Conservation Officer later on. So what you're reading there is their original comments.
Any other questions, anyone? Councillor Sayers?
Thank you, Chair. I've got 3 questions, if I may. First of all, the wall that's featured in the photographs which it looks quite high to me, is this a retaining wall? My second question, the narrow dirt or gravel track in the photographs, is this Ransom Road itself and the main access to the site? And my third question, on the diagram on page 121, it shows some contour lines. Are these contours shown at 1 metre intervals?
The answer is yes to all of your questions. Basically, I can't remember all of the questions, but the answer was yes to each of them.
Councillor Laws?
Thank you, Chair. Just a point of information on the plan, the sort of the area on page 119, in the bottom right, there's marked surgery. Is the access to that from Ransom Road or not? Presumably that's the rear of it, is it?
We're not sure on the answer to that.
Is it potentially material point if there's traffic going to and from that surgery, maybe the local residents would know, but on the basis of the diagrams, possibly front onto the road is below Ransom Road.
We'll find out and come back to you.
Councillor Lovett?
Thank you, Chair. Some objectors have highlighted concerns about Ransom Road and the damage that might be done during construction. I mean, could you just reiterate what is said in paragraph 72 about the responsibility of that, about the responsibilities of that road, who they lie with, and what can be done when damage occurs? Thank you.
So our construction management plan and the traffic management plan has been submitted for this particular proposal, and which includes the details of the existing condition of the road and the site operations and the mitigation measures to the road if there are any changes to the road or any defect that caused by the construction during the construction will be mitigated by the applicant. That is what we have also conditioned this construction management plan, which is only there. So that's the one.
Can I ask one question? Just about the road again, sorry about this, if anything happened to it now, how many households would have to pay to repair it? Because it's a private building, they have to do the repairs and stuff, don't they? Is it just the 3 houses on Madison Road, or do that go further?
The matters for maintenance of the private road would be a matter for the residents and anyone who has an ownership over that road to agree amongst themselves. Finances and maintenance of that road would be dealt with privately without any input from the City Council or the Council Council.
Thank you. Councillor Young?
Thank you. Can I just go back to one of the photographs that was shown by one of the objectors, I think it was Tilly, which showed the view from the flats into the area that's going to be developed. I just wanted kind of a rough idea of how tall the building would be. I think in the plans it says it won't be any taller than one next to it. So I just want to kind of be able to visualise how it's going to look in relation to the view from the moment. And also there were concerns about overlooking. Can you just reiterate how that's planned to be avoided? I think again there is going to be obscure glaze in any windows which overlook, is that right? Have I got that right? Or there'll be roof windows which
That's the street elevation of the site from the road. As you can see, this is the existing 11 Ransom Road, and that's the edge of 7 Ransom Road. So this proposed one will be smaller than the existing building on 11 Ransom Road. And from Heathside House, as you can see, there is approximately a 16-meter distance from the wall to wall, and yeah, about a 2-meter drop in the land levels as well.
Thank you. Councillor Sands.
Sorry, just to respond to your second question. In terms of overlooking, the window that is of concern, you can use that one. So it's this dormer window here that looks out towards 7 Ransom Road. That's the window in that dormer that is proposed to be obscure glazed. None of the other windows cause any overlooking issues.
Now, I do understand, but you're not allowed to speak anymore, so Councillor Sands.
Thank you, Chair. Looking back again at the diagram on page 121, I noticed there's a dotted line that says assumed location of existing main drain. It sort of seems to run down the centre of this track. Given the age of this area, I'm guessing that this main drain is likely to have been constructed of pottery or clay pipes, which could be subject to damage during the construction process. Can you confirm that that is actually the site of the drain?
it's not a matter that we need to know the exact details of at this stage. Any drainage, any damage caused to a drain would need to be repaired either by the person who's caused the damage or by the water company or whatever. But at this point in time, we don't know the material of that or will need to.
Councillor.
Sorry, I think that David wants to speak.
David?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make a point about the use of Ransom Road. I mean, you'll have seen from the photographs that the properties actually front onto Ransom Road between Ransom Road and Heath House, or post-date Heath House. So Ransom Road would have been, Ransom Road would have been used as a construction access for those properties. So it has previously been used to provide construction access to build houses on in the past. So I mean, and also so that is a kind of material consideration that this access has successfully been used to provide a construction access in the past.
Thank you. We're still on questions. So I've got Councillor Knight, Councillor Young, and then Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so with regards to the section of boundary wall, it seems to me that, am I correct in the reading of the original design only had space for one parking space that has now gone up to two? Because it seems to say that that has changed in its process.
So the original design was proposing the removal of this entire side of the wall, and there were larger driveway created very similar to what is here, and there was a double.
Sorry to interrupt you. If you're trying to point to something on the plan, there's no point actually on the screen.
Okay. So the original design that proposed was actually removing this entire southern retaining wall and creating a driveway over here, similar to what is there now at 11 Ransom Road. And they were proposing a double garage over here. So conservation, after the consultation with the conservation officer, they were not happy about the wall being removed. So after further negotiations both with highways, because they wanted an access from the private road and now a shared access from the 11 Ransom Road. So after further consultations, what we arrived is to create a small niche space with some excavation so that we can park 2 cars off street, and the garage has been removed from the proposal. So there is the continuous extension of the boundary wall is being maintained till here, and we have also conditioned the details of the boundary walls.
Yeah, thank you very much. It does confuse me a little bit that a historic wall is being taken down when shared access was an option. Thank you for your answer.
Councillor Young? No? Councillor Hampton?
To pick up on the point that was made about the ecological survey, and I think it was mentioned the first one was published, the second one in July wasn't. I know it's valid because I think it's mentioned in the papers, but it didn't add anything further. The situation hadn't changed. Is that the case? And does any kind of weight into seasonality? Because it was low ecological value to start with. Is that basically the reason behind that happening? And also, following on from the question about overlooking, I think some concerns about overshadowing were also raised. Could you just expand on why that's not so much considered to be a problem or an issue in this case?
So with regards to the ecological assessment, we just received an update from the ecologist to confirm that there had been no changes to the site in July. So that's the update that we received, so that the previous report still stands essentially. Can you please repeat your second question?
Just quite broadly, with overshadowing having been raised as a concern, could you just expand on why the report considered that that's not so much of a problem in this case?
So there's 2 reasons for the overshadowing to Heathside House has been the main point raised. The dwelling itself is of relatively low height because it's because of the roof form that it now has. There's also a separation distance of around 60 metres between the two properties, and the land levels slope down from Heathside House down towards the site. And in combination, there's not considered to be a significant loss of light to any of the property, any of the windows within the house.
Okay, thank you. We now move on to discussions and decisions. Anyone wishes? Yes.
Can I just come back to Councillor Law's point about the surgery? It's actually a veterinary clinic that's on that site now, and no, it doesn't have access from Ransom Road.
Yes, Councillor Law.
Thank you, Chair. We really want to discuss this. Just a question, from my understanding. The conservation design obviously set out some of those conditions on pages 105 to 106, and I'm just trying to match those across to the conditions that would be imposed if the recommendations followed. Are they all actually in there? Because obviously the wording is slightly differently. Looking at the bottom of page 107.
Yes, I can confirm that those conditions have been recommended.
Okay, thank you. We move on to discussions now, and any decisions anyone wants to make. Any discussion, anyone? Councillor Lovett?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's been an interesting debate, really, listening to the objectives, and I can understand that there are concerns over the changes that are proposed. But I think when one looks at the details of the application, and that it has been 2 years in the making, and the substantial reduction in scale and design of the property, and all the consultations that have taken place, I think we've arrived at a good place to ensure that we've got a further property which is very badly needed because we don't have a 5-year supply of housing land, and mitigating the impact on the environment. And as we heard from the officer, Ransom Road has been used for site traffic in the past for each of those houses to be built, and I'm pretty well. I am happy that the best mitigation has been reached, so that so that when it is built, it'll be built with sustainability in mind, and also reducing the risk of anything happening to that road. But if it does happen, then obviously the owners will have to get together and sort it out. It's not a matter for this committee, it's a private matter, and I think that's really worth emphasising. That it's difficult sometimes for lay people to understand that there are issues that do not concern this committee, reduction in the value of properties and where these private matters occur. So we don't take those into account. So I'm really happy to vote in favour of this application and ensure that we've got a sustainable further dwelling for the people of Norwich, really. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to say anything? Councillor Sands?
Councillor Knight, go first.
Councillor Knight?
On a personal level, I've worked in the conservation of historic buildings before, and I think that this historic boundary wall is quite important. I don't think that this is particularly good precedent to be setting, that when an owner of a bit of land is able to build a new property on their land, to knock down a historic wall when there was other modes of access available. I am concerned about that from a historical level, so I'm going to vote against.
Councillor Sayers.
Thank you, Chair. I sort of find myself very, very confused with this. I can see the need for additional housing, and but I find this a very, very constrained site. I don't necessarily believe that simply because there is a plot there, a house should go there. But and I do accept all of the comments that have been made concerning the environmental aspects and the conservation area. But although I'm minded to oppose the application, I really can't find any substantive reasons to do so. So, with great regret, I think I'll have to support it.
Councillor Hampton.
Yeah, I'm also minded to support the application overall and on balance, and obviously there will be an impact for quite a drastic change to that environment for residents nearby in a lot of respects, but in terms of the plan considerations that this committee can take into account and on balance with this providing a house and a 5-year land supply, I think it's very hard to find justification to vote against it today.
Thank you. The recommendation is to approve. I think I'll move that now. I need a second for that. Councillor Sayers. Any more discussion, anyone? No, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation to approve, please show.
So that is recorded. So voting in favour is Councillors Driver, Mike Sands, Councillor Young, Councillor Lubbock, Councillor Laws, Councillor Hampton.
All those against?
And against is Councillor Knight.
Thank you very much. So that's been approved. Thank you. We'll move on to the second item now, which is Orwell Road. On Orwell Road. And I'll ask Bridget to take us through the report, please.
If Councillor Knight is going to the bathroom,
we need to take a break if Councillor Young's leaving the meeting. Yeah, well, we have to break up if someone leaves because they're not allowed back in again if we start. See, so. No, you go to the toilet.
No, sorry.
I'm not stopping anyone going to the toilet.
We're just going to take a 5-minute break because Councillor Knight is going to the loo.
We'll move straight back on to the agenda, and we'll now move on to 2 Orwell Road. I'll ask Vinci to take us through the report, please. Thank you.
This application seeks planning permission to demolish the outbuilding at the 2 Orwell Road and construct a single-story 3-bedroom dwelling. The site is about 2 kilometers south of the city centre, which is located in the garden of 2 Orwell Road, which is a Grade 2 listed semi-detached property in the Newmarket Conservation Area. To the north is the 1 Orwell Road, the other half of the semi-detached pair, followed by 12 and 13 Town Close Road over here. These are all Grade 2 listed buildings. And the primary access from number 2 Orwell Road has 2 access points. The primary access from the Orwell Road here to the west and a private road to the east. Access to this new dwelling is proposed via this private road. The site is within the Newmarket Conservation Area, surrounded by Grade 2 and locally listed buildings. As you can see, all these buildings are locally listed. Trees on the site and or the Orwell Road are protected by TPOs, and the site is also located in the critical drainage area. This is the existing outbuilding that is proposed to be demolished. That's my view. This is a view that shows the existing 2 Orwell Road, the Grade 2 listed property, and the site. This is the entrance from the private road to the property. Coming to the proposal, the existing single-story outbuilding would be demolished and replaced by a single-story 3-bedroom dwelling. This requires subdivision of the rear garden to provide access and amenity for the new dwelling. And the access is proposed by this particular private road located on the west. Concerns were raised about covenants restricting the subdivision, but covenants are not material to planning. The conservation officer have reviewed the impact on the conservation area and confirmed that subdivision is sympathetic and leaves ample garden for the host property. Evidence from 1884 maps shows a historical garden division, which the proposal partly follows. Subdivision is therefore acceptable. The scale of the proposed dwelling is appropriate and will not dominate the listed building. The proposal results in a low harm to the significance of the Grade 2 listed building and the conservation area. Take you through the photographs, and that's the gate to this gate from the private road to this property, and this is proposed as the parking area. This number 2 Orwell Road benefits from 2 access points I've briefed earlier. This proposed building will utilize the existing private road currently serving the site along with 1 Orwell Road and other 3 properties. The route is already used for bin collection and associated services. Highways have identified limitations along the private road, including the absence of a turning curve and varying road width from 3.5 to 4.5 meters. Narrowing of this route arises primarily from the Orwell Road edges and the lime tree located in the neighboring site 1 Orwell Road, as you can see in the picture. Despite these constraints, the lane is already in use routinely by cars, delivery vans, refuse trucks. The tree officer has supports the selective ground lifting of this particular lime tree to 5 meters and trimming of the surrounding vegetations. Although the maintenance cannot be enforced because it's in a private road and private property, it is considered sufficient to preserve appropriate clearance. The vegetation management will remain the responsibility of the private land owners. Highways officer had observed that service and delivery trucks are often required to reverse a full 100 meter back to the town close road, creating an existing safety concern. Therefore, recommended an installation of Type 5 turning head to resolve this issue. The applicant amended the proposal accordingly, and highways have confirmed that the revised turning head meets their standards. To ensure a long-term accessibility, a planning condition will remove the permitted development rights for gates, bollards, or any obstructions. That's the view of this private road. And this is how the junction where the private road meets the town close road. And this is the design. As you can see, this is the proposed gate. That's the parking. And by planning condition, there won't be any gates or any chain or blockage here to make sure that it will be always open for the turning. This plan shows the existing proposed site in comparison with the Great Old Estate building, neighboring building. And that's the subdivision. As you can see the turning cut here. And this proposed new house will also be benefited by a significantly sized rear garden. Those are the elevations. And that's the side section in comparison with the existing 2/2 and the proposed new building. As you can see, it's a very moderately sized, and that's the detail of the turning head, proposed turning head. Okay. Concerns regarding increased traffic has been considered. Highways raised no objection and estimate that the new building would generate approximately 6 vehicle movements per day. Current traffic levels on this private lane are low, making less chances for simultaneous vehicles. With the turning head in place, maneuvering spaces improve significantly. Visibility at the junction of the town close road is deemed adequate owing to the existing weighting restrictions, 20-meter speed limit, and street lighting. A construction traffic management plan has been submitted and included a record which includes the record of current condition of the road along with commitments to reinstate any damage. It also provides details of construction phase parking, fencing, demolition procedures, and delivery arrangements. A private transport consultant appointed by the neighboring residents raised concerns that the actual speeds of the town close road exceeds the proposed 20 mile per hour limit, suggesting an average of 27 mile per hour. It argues that therefore, with this higher speeds, the proposed 2-meter visibility supply would be substandard and dangerous. These comments were noted in the updates report, and we have raised concerns with the highways. The highways officer have revisited the site and they have raised no objection, citing from a traffic survey. Highways confirmed that the speed is within the limits of a maximum of 22.9 mile per hour towards New Market Road. Therefore, satisfy the existing 2-meter visibility supplies. This assessment aligns with the Manual of Streets guidance. While we acknowledge that the traffic volumes increase during the start and finish of school times, and other than that, they remain significantly lower. Overall, the proposal for a single dwelling would generate up to 6 trips per day, combined with the proposed condition requiring a turning head at the end of the road, and given all the above factors, confirms that the proposed visibility supply is satisfactory and its impact on highway traffic and pedestrians would be minimal. As the application predates the introduction of statutory BNG, the 10% gain does not apply. However, site-specific ecological enhancements under DM16 will be secured by condition. And subject to the conditions in the report, we recommend approval for the planning permission. And there is an update after the publication of the updates report. We have received objections from the ward councillors.
Okay. Thank you. We move on now to the objectors, and I've got Tony Doyle to speak first.
Yes, sir.
And you have.
Yeah, we split our time. I've got to stop what hearings in a second.
Mr. Chairman, I think some of the information that's just been set out from a highways perspective is out of date. Commissioner just commented that the speeds are 22 miles an hour. That's incorrect. Norfolk County Council's own survey, which was supplied yesterday, shows an 80-50 time speed of 25.9. Now, my own recorded speed, which we did for a limited period, was 27 miles per hour. Significantly greater than the 20 mile an hour speed limit on that road. This is not a surprise to Norfolk County Council, especially when in their own 2022 report for Norfolk for Transport had commented from local residents of excessive speed and issues with inappropriate parking. Town Close Road is not a lightly trafficked road. It's got significant movements of vehicles in the morning and evening here, which coincides with the drop-off and pick-up of children from the local schools. The 20 miles an hour speed limit was brought in, as I understand, in relation to the improvements to Ipswich Road several years ago. But it hasn't worked. It's just clearly not working. By simply putting up speed limit signs without any other speed restriction features such as road lamps or anything else just doesn't help the case here. These are the reasons why the Highway Authority have considered that 2 metre setback would be appropriate. Manual for Streets sets out in paragraph 777 that it would be okay to have a 2 metre setback. The 2 metre setback being the position of the distance between the front of the car and the driver, so that essentially it should be 2.4 metres, but they would accept that the car on a general road. But only under circumstance where traffic speeds are low and vehicle volumes are low. This is just simply not the case. And even in that case, can we go to the slide showing the visibility displays? Drawn, please, Vishnu. That's one. So these were taken on site, and actually, at 2 metre setback, you only have 17 metres, and that's my recorded distance. Even for a 20 mile an hour speed limit, design speed, you need 25. But for a 25.9 metre design speed, so 25 mile per hour design speed, you need 34. We only have 17 at 2 metres, and it's even worse at 2.4, at just over 11 metres. So it is a significantly substandard visibility display, which actually you can just see by standing there. And I can't understand why this isn't a particular issue for the Highway Authority, because in every other case, when it comes to visibility displays and new development, even one dwelling, an intensification of use of such as this would be a significant highway safety issue. And I know Mr. Kennex is here today, and maybe he might be able to provide some additional answers on that, and maybe we can both clarify some positions on it. So on that note, I'll hand over to Mr. James Firegrove. So James.
Thank you. Well, I think we were looking through the slides to the ones that I prepared. But while we're doing that, maybe I can just make a couple of points, Chair, if you don't mind, following on from the debate on the last issue, which is, I know, rightly so, that all councillors, and indeed we police carrying members of the public care about the housing situation, we are fully aware that we do need more housing. So, and Mr. Tiger will be talking about this in a moment, we had considerable debates over a period of 2 months with the trustees of the Norwich Freeman's charity that, as you know, historically owned this whole area and still own a number of houses, including the one on the corner. And they came, I'll quote, after thorough and careful consideration of all matters pertaining to this issue, it was resolved basically that the lane, the private lane, which we and others, the three of us are the main access, this is a subsidiary access, which you explained, that was not a suitable access. Of course, Gales down the road is already on the edge, and one more is you know, you mentioned the six, I think it's not a restaurant, but 6 tourists and goers a day. It would just cause even more chaos than we face. People reversing into the road, as already happens. I want to quickly show you a few pictures of that, because the highways case rests on the fact that this is very lightly trafficked and slow speed. It's absolutely neither. But just to finish the earlier point in terms of housing, there is another access which we've discussed with the planning people, which is, and they are clearly going to be having debate, because the highways will come back to me on those points, which is down Orwell Road. That's the front, maybe when I finish, perhaps you can go back and show that one. There is an access there. It's a narrower tarmac road. There's plenty of birds on the other side, so it's very easy to make parking places. The access onto the main road, onto Town Close Road, which is a busy road at about 3 or 4 hours per day. You'll see the pictures. Does not mean reversing onto the road, because you can reverse round onto Fairfield Road. I'd like to show you that picture. So this is not a question of denying Norwich another house. It just means doing it in a much more sensible place that does not cause so many difficulties for us down our private drive. Perhaps we can just go very quickly through the slides if you don't mind. I'll just hold up my hand which to show you when, just I think keep moving on, because so that shows you the people walking down there. Lots of pictures. If you're there, there are three schools. Can you go back to the schools one? Sorry, we're looking around in this presentation. I think my first slide. Yes, that. Okay. So you can see that star is where the junction is that we're discussing. Number 1 is the college, very close, kids walk, those pictures you saw a bit later. Can you see Mr. Zams? I think this is very important. The kids walk down the north side of Town Close Road to get to that. I estimated, and I don't think the highways officer ever even saw this, so they could make these claims, it's very likely trafficked and so on. I estimated there were over 200 kids going down there. They're just masses in groups of people with their earbuds in, you know, and then the speeds, frankly, up to 40 miles an hour down this road. But as you saw, the 85th percentile was somewhere between 26 and 27, according to both reports. Number 2 there, which is the Hewitt Academy, I think is really important, because kids there, they get the buses, that top row there is the Newmarket Road, the buses stop there, they then walk down Town Close Road, they cross the level crossing, I don't know if you're familiar with it, which is just south of the Town Close Road exit onto Ipswich Road, and then go to school. So what they do, and I'll show you a picture of this in a moment, is they cross, there's only a pavement on the north side of Town Close Road. They cross at this junction, because the only pavement on the south side is between that star and Ipswich Road. So you get kids crossing. Plenty of pictures of that further on. And then drop-offs. That's also relevant for number 3 there, which is Town Close School for younger kids, 3 to 12-year-olds. So what happens there is that the car park is, I think it's been well reported, is severely inadequate. You get cars backing up, I'm sure you've all seen it, if you turn that road in the early morning, you get cars backing up down gets too much, they go into Town Post Road and drop themselves there. Parking wherever they can, often on double lines. This is an area of, I think we could say, great vulnerability. There are young kids of age 2 to 3, the college kids, we can just go quickly through the slides, actually, if you don't mind. Thank you, Chair, for your discretion on this. There's so many important points. That describes the schools. Next one, please. That shows you a bit of the traffic problems. That shows you the kids I just mentioned crossing the road. If you look carefully, that area on the right there, on the second one, is where the junction is. So they're crossing exactly the junction. Next one, please. That's showing the congestion absolutely snarled up. In the evening, you can get cars 16 back. When you get to 10 cars back, you're blocking the entrance to our lane. So there's people squeezing to get through them. So next one, please. That shows the reversing. What happens all the time. This hasn't really been mentioned. It is mentioned by the Highways Authority as a concern. Certainly is a concern because basically you've got as a single truck driver, as you see, any vehicle that has a particularly big one has to reverse out into Town Post Road in this sensitive, vulnerable environment. Next one, please. So I think there's our conclusions. It's a severely substandard. Let's call it what it is. It's severely substandard. We cannot possibly justify this reduction to 2 metres. It is simply not very likely traffic. Or slow speed. The intensification of traffic along the lane adds to public safety issues, and any increase in the reversing from this lane into the Town Post Road needs to be avoided. Just one quick one, I think it's covered by your logo, but if we all remember our highway code, which basically says you shall not reverse from a side street into a busier road. Can you find it? They are just clause 201. Yeah, that happens all the time. This is only going to increase that and cause a lot of problems. I'm going to stop there, Chair. Thank you so much for your time and for allowing me to show those slides. Thank you.
No problem. Got James Fairburn?
That was James. It's
That's
Shane.
James, right? Shane? And you have Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for answering Mrs. Stone. Christian, could you please go to the site plan, the presentation you gave? So we're looking there at a site plan which I would describe as a musket. Would that be fair? Something along the lines of a good old shotgun. The barrels, the entire shooting bit, is not the site. It's not part of the site. It is not the site. Can we go forward a couple, please? And take some pictures of the entrance that we just heard there. A bit further, well, I think it's towards the end of this one. Pictures of the entrance. The entrance. Can we go to, keep going, please?
The entrance to the lane.
Just keep going, please. Keep going, please. That is my house. I own it. I own the drive. It is not part of the site. It is mine. It is freehold. I own it. It is not a question of whether something's going to be subdivided. It is a question of reasonableness and rationality of approving a plan where there is no access. I'm not going to go rushing from my house to give CPR to a 16-year-old that's doing exactly what I did when I was 16, bought a moped, jumped straight on it, and went as fast as they humanly could to become a kidney donor. I don't want to be out there having to notice of that child. That is why I'm objecting. I spent the last 15 years of my life in education. I was a university lecturer. My wife spent her entire life teaching. We have 2 children of our own, we're lucky enough to have a grandchild. I'm not going to be picking up pieces when it all goes horribly wrong. So I will give everything, and when I say everything, my life, my wealth, and all my time, ensuring that when this goes to judicial review, because I feel I've been implied that this is a foregone conclusion, when this goes to judicial review, I will be looking at what's known as the Grampian issue. And it says that that it is rational to grant planning permission for a dwelling which cannot be lawfully accessed, for which no easement exists, for which no statutory mechanism exists to compel an easement, just as there's no statutory mechanism to compel this man to hack in his trees. All parties that have the power to grant such right have refused. I have refused. My neighbour has refused. The charity has refused. Why have we refused? Why have we refused? Not because it's a misrepresentation, because it's just dangerous. The other side, there's all these pictures of my house, of my gravel drive that we're all discussing. Not one picture of his road, of his tarmacked road that has been approved, that we all accept, that we accept will be safe, that we accept will be sensible, and will pass the Grampian principle. My legal advice is that a judicial review, it will be upheld. I'm also told I've got a more than reasonable chance of my costs being recovered. So I'd like you to please, when I leave, cross-examine these people who just dismissed it. It's my land, it's not part of the site, it's not a segmentation issue or a dissection issue. We've been through this, we've spent over a year looking at this, we've tried to be reasonable, we've accommodated a way that this house can be built. And on that final note, there is an existing dwelling which could be converted. Are we really telling ourselves that the most expensive road in certainly Norwich and possibly Norfolk is about creating homes for youngsters? Neither of my children have a home yet. My youngest son is actually staying in this house at the moment because we're not going to live there while all this is going on. The house, this side, is the plot. The other side is already a building plot. They just demolished it. It sits there, demolished in a conservation area, on the market for 1.1, 1.2 million. This isn't about creating homes for people. This is about maximising the potential of a plot. And I don't care what the consequences are for the youngsters that we love to see walking up and down. People talking about wildlife in the previous one. This is about children. This is about children. And the Town Close charity recognise that. The neighbours recognise it. I recognise it.
Thank you. Well, we'll move on to questions from members. Any questions?
Sorry. I think David.
Yes, David.
Make blinded. Obviously, some very heartfelt comments made there, but I feel that before we kind of go on to questions, a threat of judicial review is not a material planning consideration, so the committee just needs to make sure that it makes the decision on material planning grounds and it follows the processes that we have set out and it respects the principles, the planning principles. I mean, the point has been made in representations from the Town Close ward members that the threat of an appeal is not a material planning consideration. That's true, but equally the threat of a judicial review is not a material planning consideration either. So you need to make sure with this application, as with any others, that this is made on planning grounds and there's sound planning reasons for whatever decision that this committee as the decision maker decides to make. Thank you.
Questions, anyone? Councillor Knight.
So it's my understanding that the majority of the objections is coming from where the access point. Am I correct in that? It's about
you can ask the.
I can't ask.
You can ask the opposite.
Yeah, it's about the road. It's not about the building itself. So would this committee be able to put a recommendation about changing the access point?
David.
So the plans that we have before us involve access from the private road. Any revision to that would need new plans and therefore it couldn't be conditioned. If that's something that members are minded to do, we can explore options to do so, but for now the matter under the planning application under consideration involves access via the private road.
Can I just take the opportunity to come back again on one of the points that's been made about the permissions that may or may not be granted by other parties that are necessary. I mean, the objectors have mentioned the Freemans and also whether or not they, as people with an interest in the access grant permission. The consent runs with the land, and we're looking at whether the planning issues are satisfied in the determination of this application, not whether or not the individuals involved, who may change over time within the life of the consent, but not whether the individuals who need to give permission now would actually give it, because things change. We're looking at whether or not the planning issues can actually be satisfied.
Councillor, do you want to come back?
Sorry, so in that case, if we granted planning permission and then the residents refused access, what would happen then?
The straight answer is nothing. Grant of planning consent doesn't confer any additional rights over land, nor does it take them away. So you can grant consent here, having satisfied yourself all the planning issues are addressed. And if the neighbours and whoever else needs to grant consent as well outside of the planning system, if they refuse to grant that consent, then nothing happens.
Councillor Lovick.
Yes, thank you. If this were to be approved, am I right in thinking that it would involve 6 extra vehicle movements a day? Just 6 extra movements a day, and that the planning permission would come with a turning head that doesn't currently exist. And my thoughts are that if that is so, then this is an improvement on what is there at the moment, because it will have a turning head where there isn't at the moment. And so, although it is 6 extra, it doesn't mean that it will be extra vehicles backing out onto that main road, as we've seen in some of the photographs. So can you just confirm that, please?
That's right, yeah, there'd be 2 impacts from the proposal as shown on the plans. One is there's clearly an additional house there with additional comings and goings, and there would be some additional vehicle movements therefore using that private road and entering and exiting from Town Close Road. And in addition to that, there would be an unobstructed access way which would function as a turning head, and therefore vehicles which might currently reverse out onto Town Close Road should be able to turn around and exit onto Town Close Road in a forward gear.
Sorry, Chairman.
No, you can't, I'm afraid.
That's incorrect.
Councillor Laws? No, you still can't talk. Thank you. Councillor Laws?
Thank you, Chair. It's going to just get to the bottom of the access. I understand the point about relevant planning considerations, but in terms of what the gentleman described as the shotgun, barrel is the page 147. The barrel is the access road, or is the required access, and that is privately owned by one owner, or?
It's not a matter that we need to know the answer to. It doesn't matter who owns that landing, but it's privately owned.
Okay, well, the main point is that in terms of rights of way, either there is a right of way or there isn't. Typically, it wouldn't require some further consent for other people to use the right of way. Either there's some type of easement or there isn't. It seems that, I take the point that if you grant planning permission and then somehow access can't be obtained, then nothing happens and we haven't achieved much. But it might be useful to know whether, I just can't establish the situation because it seems strange that they should require permission. Private land never comes with absolute rights. There's always some easement, covenant, whatever. Either there is a right of way, there isn't. It shouldn't depend on people giving permission to use that right of way.
Just to come back to Laura's point, whether or not a current right of way exists from that piece of land, which is not a material planning consideration, because that may be granted at some point in the future. Obviously, those parties involved at the moment have said they won't grant it, but those things can change. So it's not material to the determination of this particular application whether legal rights exist for access to that house.
Any more questions?
Sorry, can I just say, just to remind members that we do have Kieran Yates from Norfolk County Council who dealt with the application and responded to the consultation here, if there are any questions for him.
I've got one. I'm not sure if it's going to be him or the planning officer. But was there any the other places on Tancred's Road, the other houses? How much entrance have they got when they drive out of their property? Is it the same as the entrance here, or are they a lot bigger so they can look? I know we shouldn't take that into consideration, but if they've all got the same view as the entrance for the lane.
From my point of view, from planning point of view, I imagine they vary, given that some of them are historic, but I'll defer to Kieran.
Wasn't subject to assessment related to this application, but yes, these are very historic houses with established points of access, and that wasn't assessed, so I can't comment.
Okay.
I think it's the impact on this particular access that we need to be concerned with.
Thank you. Councillor.
Yes, there was some dispute over the average speed of traffic along Town Close Road, but that was given with the proviso that it was only for a short period of time. And would the Transport Officer like to comment on the variation between that number in the is it 22 miles an hour and the 25.9 miles an hour? Is that the difference? And whether that would really make a difference to the need to have a wider display area.
So there has been a traffic survey conducted in 2022 by Norfolk County Council, very close to this point of access from this private back lane, and obviously there's a huge variation of speeds at different times of day. However, for transport planning purposes, we look at what we call the 85th percentile, which is slightly different to the mean average. Mean average was around 21 miles an hour, but the 85th percentile was 25 miles per hour. So I accept that point from Mr. Dobbin's assessment, and that does change the visibility display that Manual for Streets advises. But that is guidance, and we have to take a balanced view overall when assessing visibility of the X and Y distance. So there was we took a view that yes, the 85th percentile was 25 miles an hour, and the Y distance, we call it, should be therefore 33 metres, whereas if you go for like around 20 miles an hour, it's 25 metres.
What can you achieve?
No, I can't discuss.
What can you achieve? 11.
Yeah.
11 meters.
So with the X distance, which is the position of the driver, we have a slightly different point of view from Mr. Dawes' assessment in terms of where you assess the X distance. It's quite indistinct on the carriageway. The standard setback is 2.4 metres, so the bonnet doesn't enter the carriageway. And at that point, you get a very constrained visibility display of around 11 metres, which is substandard and unacceptable. But with a relaxation at 2 metres, which doesn't require the bonnet to enter the carriageway slightly, which I'm sure happens quite commonly at the moment, you can achieve around 25 metres. And the reason for the relaxation of the X distance where the driver is, which I think is quite crucial, was overall, on balance, we felt that was acceptable because there's been no injury accidents recorded on Town Close Road for at least the past 5 years. Yes, there is traffic activity at school times and at peak times, but when there isn't that activity, it's a very quiet road, it's an unclassified road. Most of the traffic is on the primary roads. It's street lit, most of the pedestrian activity is on the other side of the road. And the proposal is only for one dwelling, with on average 6 trips a day. Some of those could be on foot, some of them by car or delivery vehicle. But on balance, we felt that the relaxation of the X to 2 metres was reasonable. So that explains our assessment. That's quite lengthy.
Any other questions, anyone? No? We'll move on to discussions then. Anyone wish to say anything? No, we'll move on to Councillor Young. Just for members. Councillor Young?
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm concerned that we're not giving enough weight to pedestrian and cycle safety here. I know that there's going to be or likely to be a huge development on the Marsh site at some point in the near future, which is in the vicinity of this area, no doubt increasing the number of pedestrians and cyclists, hopefully, not cars, but some cars, no doubt, as well, far more delivery drivers cutting through and navigating these streets. I can only see things are going to get busier. I'm sure they have already become much busier since the 2022 traffic survey, a time that probably a lot of people are working from home more than they are now, will be perhaps over the next few years, particularly when we start seeing more developments appear in the city. I'm just really concerned that we're not giving enough weight to pedestrians and cyclists navigating this incredibly busy area.
Councillor Levitt? Oh, David, did you want to come back to it?
Sorry to put in again, but I just caution against making a decision on this particular application, trying to anticipate the decisions on future applications. You have to make it on this particular one.
Councillor Levitt?
I'm familiar with what happens at the beginning and the end of the school day, when it is very, very busy if you're anywhere near a school. And all I can say is that those times are sometimes safest from the point of view of speeds, because nobody can go anywhere very quickly. I mean, Eton Road is the one that's close to my heart. I mean, thousands of children coming out of school at the same time. And, there are just so many pedestrians, cyclists, and the cars. But, as I say, because there are so many, sometimes the road is blocked. So I guess there's not been any accidents because the vehicles are not going very quickly. And I think schools are doing as much as they can with the resources they've got to try and cut down on the amount of people coming to pick up. But I think we just have to accept that sometimes during the day it is very busy and traffic is not travelling very fast. And it's almost it's when the road is quiet that you can get, cut through traffic doing quite a lot of miles per hour. But I think this road particularly has some parking on it which slows you down because you have to stop, and it's single track on the other side where there is parking. So I do accept that it can be busy at times, but I don't think it's busy fast at the times when there are pedestrians and cyclists. And we do hope that
Can we say the survey was done at that time?
And also, we do hope that in years to come, that 20 mile per hour does mean 20 mile per hour. We're still at that interim stage where people see the signs and think that it doesn't apply to them. But hopefully in years to come, 20 does mean 20. And actually a mean speed of anything under 30 is much better than 30. So I do take the issue that this is a busy road, but it's not a fast road. And I think it gives plenty of opportunity for traffic down that access route to be able to stop and take time in going out of the access route. So I feel that we've looked at this point adequately and have accepted that 6 extra movements
is not going to have a detrimental impact on the road, on Town Close Road.
Anyone else? Okay, well, the recommendation is to approve. I'll move that. I've got a second. Thank you, Councillor Sands. All those in favour, please show.
So that is a recorded vote. So those voting in favour are Councillors Driver, Mike Sands, Councillor Lubbock, Councillor Laws and Councillor Hampton.
Anyone against?
So voting against is Councillor Young.
Abstentions. Thank you.
And abstention, Councillor Knight.
That's been passed then. Thank you. And we'll move now on to next item.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry to be late.
That's all right, no problem. And we're now on to Deadman Road, the old shoe factory. No,
your agenda. I thought she was wanted to be here.
Sorry, I'm just going to have a
Thank you for waiting another 5 minutes. We're now going on to application 4.1, and that's the former Florida for the shoe factory Dickman Road. And I'll ask Tracy Armitage to go for the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, as you quite rightly say, the site is the location of the former Florida shoe factory, where Vandal shoes were manufactured until the factory closed in 2018. And members may recall that earlier this year there was an extensive fire at the site, and following that extensive damage, the site was subsequently cleared and buildings demolished. Red line boundary of the site is before you on the slide. The site is allocated for residential development in the Greater Norwich Local Plan. You can see the site kind of falls into two parts. You've got the southern part to the south of Dibden Road. This area of land was used as a car park for the previous factory, so it's used by employees and visitors. And then the main factory complex located to the north of Dibden Road, bounded on its three boundaries by residential properties, all those properties backing onto it. So there are residential properties on Crone Road to the west, Romany Road to the north, Gertrude Road to the east, and on the southern side of Dibden Road there are also residential properties that face the main site. The site does sit higher than the adjoining residential properties on Crone and Romany Road, and you'll see in photographs that I'll show you shortly that as you kind of head east up Dibden Road, you're climbing the hill, so there's a change of levels. So just a satellite image there of the site prior to the fire, and I suspect at the time the factory was still operating, given the cars parked on the car park. So the car park to the south on Dibden Road, and then to the north, a quite extensive factory building previously on the site. The oldest element of the group of buildings was this kind of L-shaped wing, which was brick built. I'll show you some images of that at the moment. Building scale changed across the site. There was kind of single-storey elements, two-storey elements. This corner of the L-shaped was kind of three-storey in scale, given it had a kind of exposed basement area. And then this infill portion here, this was more of a modern addition to the factory complex, where much of the manufacturing floor space was located. And that is just a quick photograph to show you that modern addition, and this is actually following the fire. So going back to Dibden Road, this is that older L-shaped building that fronted Dibden Road and then extended into the site along the depth of the site. The building was locally listed. It had distinctive double gables, very visible entrances to the factory building, and quite an extensive glazed frontage which faced south. Just another photograph there of that Dibden Road frontage, which also shows the residential properties to the south, and behind this fence here is the car park. And I think you can start to see here that there is, you are climbing from Crone Road up to the kind of head of the Dibden Road cul-de-sac. Just some existing elevations as they were before the fire. So the top cross-section shows you that Dibden Road frontage, and I think again you can see that changing levels. And the bottom section shows the L-shaped wing as it extended across the depth of the site, and its elevated position relative to properties on both Crome Road and Romney Road. Just a few photographs just showing the building as it previously existed. You can just see in the shot there the two-storey flats on Gertrude Road. This is at the top of the Dibden Road cul-de-sac. And just stepping a bit further away from the site, previously the factory was visible from Silver Road as you kind of looked up towards the site. The building, factory building, kind of popped up behind those existing properties on Crome Road. And if you're looking previously through the gaps in those properties on Crome Road, you can start to see here that previous factory building. So the site has been cleared following the fire. So I've got a couple of photographs here taken from within the site. This photograph is taken within the site, looking north towards Romney Road, and in the image here you can see that there is a continuous mature hedgerow of significant height. It's around 8 metres in height. It's a hornbeam hedge. That's just a photograph taken closer to the base of that hedge, and as you can see, they're very substantial individual hornbeam trees, really, that together create this linear hedge feature along the northern boundary. And you can see at a lower level there the rears of the gardens and properties on Romney Road. And again, back into the site with that hornbeam hedge on the right-hand side, looking now in a westerly direction towards Crome Road. You can see a large tree here. This is a gum tree which actually sits outside of the site boundary. So in terms of what is proposed, it's a scheme of 48 apartments, 1 or 2 bedroomed. The flats are divided into 2 blocks. Block A, which is the frontage block, which would face Dibden Road and create that new street frontage. And then sitting parallel to that block, but set back into the site, is Block B, which again is 1 and 2 bedroom flats. Car parking, total of 50 parking spaces are proposed to serve the 48 units, split between the main site and the site to the south of Dibden Road, previously used for factory parking. That would be resident parking. And between the 2 blocks, an area of communal open space for amenity for the residents of the site. This is a cross-section showing the new Dibden Road frontage relative to the red outline of the previous factory building. So largely equivalent in scale to that previous factory, other than the middle section, which steps up in height. Looking from the kind of Crome Road direction, again you can see the previous outline of the factory. The layout, the proposed layout, opens up this middle section of the site, which was previously covered with factory buildings. Just taking you through now the elevations for Block A. So the top section is the Dibden Road frontage. The design has taken inspiration really from the previous factory, in particular in relation to the gabled bookend elements of the block, the way in which the entrances of the block have been treated, and the fenestration pattern has kind of taken direction from those previous window styles of the factory. And the elevation below is the rear elevation. All of the flats, all 48 flats, would have a recessed balcony, providing access to external amenity space. The middle section of the block, which has got a flat roof with brick detail and a parapet level, that would provide the space at that roof level to accommodate PV panels and air source heat pump apparatus. They're the two end elevations of Block A, that frontage block. You'll note reference in the report to a recommended plan condition suggesting partial glazing, obscure glazing of the eastern elevation, just to mitigate the impact in terms of adverse overlooking of properties on Gertrude Road. And that image is a kind of CGI giving you an indication of how Block A would look from Dibden Road. Floor plans, as I say, a mix of 1 and 2 bedroomed flats are proposed. You can see the recessed balconies on the plan view here, and all those flats would be accessed via shared stair course. And just showing you the roof plan, particularly in this corner, which is confirming that's where the PV panels and air source heat pumps would be located. Block B, which is the block set back into the site running parallel with the frontage block, this is a split between 2 and 3 stories block, and you can see in this section here how the block steps down. So the 3-story element, top elevation here, this is the elevation which would face Block A and that shared parking communal space. And the 2-story elevation where it steps down, this is that elevation would face the northern boundary, that hornbeam hedge which is supposed to be retained, and looking kind of north towards the properties on Romany Road. The same, I'll just go back actually. Just go back to the elevations, just to indicate that the design approach it mirrors that of Block A in terms of making use of the double gables to bookend the central flat-roofed section, identical materials palette and approach to fenestration. And again, at roof level, space for PV panels and air source heat pump apparatus. In terms of landscaping, the existing hedge feature along that northern boundary would be retained and in fact subject to a long-term management plan. In terms of kind of communal amenity space, there's a central area proposed between Block A and B, which would create a space for families occupying this development to use. And then generally across the site, the immediate setting of the 2 blocks would be landscaped, providing some defensible space for ground floor units. And there's some additional landscaping also proposed to be the parking area on the southern side of Dibden Road. There's reference in the report to the fact that we have had a number of objections, and one of those objections in particular raised concerns about overshadowing in terms of the impact, particularly of Block B, on the properties on Romilly Road. So I just wanted to just take you through some slides to illustrate that relationship. This slide here shows a cross-section through the site. You can see the properties, there's two cross-section points, so they're both going north to south. And you can see from these cross-sections that the site does sit higher than properties on Romilly Road, and that change in levels occurring really at the site boundary, where it steps up and then there's a steady further rise to site level. So these two sections show the Block B, which is stepped 2 and 3 up and then up to 3 stories, where it would be positioned relative to the site boundary and the existing hornbeam hedge. The applicant has provided a shading study. Given that the Block B will sit to the south of the boundary with the Romilly Road properties, the existing hornbeam hedge has done and will continue to have a shading impact on those properties to the north. And what this shading study does is for 4 dates in the year, March, June, September and December, it looks at shading patterns during the course of that day. So we have 9 o'clock, noon, and then 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So this top row of images just get you, this is Romilly Road to the north, Crome Road properties to the south, to the west, Block A, Block B, the hornbeam hedge that you saw in the photographs. So in March, the shading study demonstrates that it is the hedge that causes a overshadowing impact on those gardens and properties on Romilly Road, and the Block B would not exacerbate that shading problem in March, and again in June, because the sun is higher. Both the hedge and Block B would have minimal overshadowing impact on those properties. Later on in the year, this is the September study. The September study again is showing it's the hedge that would be the dominant element that would affect shading within those gardens. Hornbeam is deciduous, so there are times of the year when it's not in leaf. During those winter periods when it isn't in leaf, the Block B would cause some overshadowing of those garden spaces. And the applicant has also then gone on to provide some visuals of how
Yeah, someone's nicked the sun.
I don't know, sorry, I can't explain why that one is so dark, because in fact that is the summer one, which doesn't show any shading on the image that's before me. So I don't know how to write that. Okay. But so the first one is summer, where there's very little shading given the height of the sun in the sky. This second one, I think can see shading there. This one isn't a particular date or time, it's just a winter view. And the next one is actually on December the 21st, which is the winter solstice. So this is kind of the shortest day of the year when shading is likely to be at its peak. So we have considered the issue of shading and how it potentially affects Romany Road, and I think we recognise that certainly at times of the year, particularly winter, when the hedge isn't in leaf and when the angle of the sun is very low, the development will have some overshadowing effect, but it will be seasonal and it will be variable. It will vary during the winter period, it will vary during the day. And on that basis, although there will be some negative impact, we don't consider it to be adverse. The rest of the report kind of takes you through the other aspects of the scheme, and I don't propose to go through that, but in summary, the proposal represents a high density residential scheme on an allocated housing site. The mix of units proposed will meet an identified housing need. You'll note in the report that the site is owned by Flagship. Flagship are proposing to deliver the scheme 100% affordable and all for social rent. There is a recognised identified need for affordable housing, in particular one-bedroom units and two-bedroom units, and there is a particular need for social rent. So the development would make a very substantial contribution to addressing that need within the city. And in terms of the planning balance, significant weight can be attached to that benefit, particularly at a time that we don't have a 5-year land supply. A Section 106 obligation is required to secure the policy-compliant affordable provision. This has been drafted. It also secures the payment of the RAMS tariff and the green infrastructure payment as referred to in the report. The applicant has an agreement in place to purchase credits to ensure that their development is nutrient neutral. The development has been subject to habitat regulations assessment, and Natural England have confirmed no objection subject to the mitigation being secured. So, in summary, really, in terms of the scale of the development, it will be conspicuous within the locality, but as was the previous factory, and in terms of the proposed design, the materials palette, we consider it will have a high quality, distinctive appearance, and it will make a positive contribution to the local townscape. So on that basis, approval is recommended as set out in paragraph 133 of the report.
Thank you very much, Fantastic. We have got two speakers. Jenny, you're going to speak for the opposition, I believe, and you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I just want to praise the social rent aspect of this application, and also the work that the planning officers have done to answer some of the questions that I am going to read out. One of my residents approached me to ask to have this read out on their behalf as they were unable to attend. As a resident of Romany Road, there is concern that the impact of the development on our properties have not been assessed. This is not an objection to the development on principle or the couple of years of construction disturbance. The applicant has considered the impact on Crome Road homes and Dibden Road hostel dwellers, but not on the residents of Romany Road. Elevations, cross-sections and overlooking considerations were provided as part of the initial submission, but nothing considering Romany Road. Elevations, cross-sections, overlooking and shading assessments were requested in January 2024 as part of the initial submission. These were requested again in January and October of 2025. A fobbing off email was received from the planning officer on the 11th of October 2025. Following a further request for some information was received on the 19th of November. This included a cross-section based on assumed levels on Romney Road and a single shading rendering. Following another request for correct shading assessment, some more shading renderings were provided from the architect with no explanation, methodology, standards used or assessment. The sections were not based on surveyed levels. This is a concern as the properties on Romney Road are at a notably lower level than the site as they are to the north. This exacerbates shading and overlooking, therefore no current information can be deemed valid. The shading renderings do not provide a qualitative or quantitative assessment for the planning officer to consider how many days will shading be partial or total, especially in the winter. Side windows overlooking the gardens on Crome Road are to be obscured for privacy. On the elevation facing Romney Road, the size and number of windows have been increased and even balconies added. Where's the concern for privacy here? Presumably the increase in glass in this north-facing elevation is to increase natural light into the flats. This is at the expense of existing residents. Resident parking on roads to the east of Silver Road is a major issue as the roads need to accommodate its residents' vehicles and the overflow from the parking permit area onto the west of Silver Road. In the evenings, there is not a space to be had, including on Dibden Road and Mansfield Avenue. It has been highlighted that the parking provision for the development does not meet Norfolk Highway standards, being short of 14 resident spaces and no mandatory visitor spaces. They suggest overflowing onto Dibden Road, which has on-road parking for about 5 cars, and these are not available overnight as already in use. The council has a lower standard, but they have failed to acknowledge the mandatory requirement for visitor parking. The parking included on the start right development is insufficient, and residents have filled every available space on Crome and Romney Road. Where are the new residents going to park their second cars, work vans and visitors? Replacing the open space, or rather dog poop park, between the blocks could be used to provide some of the missing spaces. There is ample open space in the vicinity, thereby enabling the applicant to buy off the missing open space requirement. Why did it take nearly 2 years to provide the vaguest of information for Romney Road? Was this intentionally ignored? The lack of technical assessments of impact on Romney Road and its failure to include statutory consultations, including the information pack for this committee, is contrary to mandatory planning requirements and a valid reason for a judicial review request should planning be approved. The site's policy was approximately 25 homes. Increasing this is accepted as necessary to make the site viable, but the current design for 48 is almost double that figure and cannot be deemed to integrate well with surrounding housing. The views over the city for the new residents and minimising the impact on residents of a parole hostel are being given priority over existing homeowners and tenants. This application should be refused in its current form, or at least deferred until the mandatory assessments are undertaken, consulted upon and deemed acceptable. And that is what my resident has asked to be read out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, right. We have got the applicant here, and you have 3 minutes as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and Councillors, for the time. My name is Kai Gibbon. I'm Pre-Construction Project Manager for Flagship Housing Limited, a major housing provider in East England. Flagship has a social mission to help solve the housing crisis. The development will provide 100% affordable housing for social rent, which is much needed housing, particularly one bed in the city. The design has been developed in consultation with NCC to incorporate many elements which echo the former factory building and heritage. It is well considered on many aspects, including the retention of the hornbeam hedge to the north of the site. This addresses overlooking. When not in leaf, this is built and set back away from the properties on Romney Road. When it's not in leaf, there is no issue with ground floor flats because there will be a 2-metre fence on the boundary. When the hornbeam hedge is in leaf, there is no issue because there will be no overlooking aspect from the flats on either the first or second floor. The overshadowing aspect is minimised by the stepping down of block B from 3 to 2 stories on the northerly boundary. Only in the winter, i.e. December, when the sun is at low level, will this be an issue. It's still filtered by the trees because of the dense nature of the hedge. The factory also shadowed these properties at this time of the year, although this is not shown in the assessments on the study. With respect to parking, this is policy compliant. As Highways note, this does not materially exacerbate the situation nor constitute a refusal. Due to the fact that this has a significant public benefit for the development of new affordable homes and green space and brownfield sites, echo this to be recommended for approval.
Thank you very much for that. Yes, David.
I just wanted to make a couple of points about the letter that Councillor Knight read out. There's a lot of reference in there to mandatory this and statutory that. The reference to the overshadowing survey, I know in the representation that the objector made, they asserted that we had to, as a statutory consultancy, consult with environmental protection. That's not the case. Environmental protection don't have a remit when it comes to overshadowing in terms of the loss of light caused by a planning application. And we requested the information off the applicant in response to the consultees, the neighbours' representations, basically to kind of give some quantification to what effectively we as officers have already kind of made a judgment on, that this proposal was not likely to have a significant overshadowing impact upon neighbours. So the information that's been provided by the applicant basically quantifies that, and basically in my advice to use it confirms from a planning point of view that impact is not material. I think again, judicial review was referred to, and the threat of judicial review is not a material consideration. Any planning application and decision can be judicially reviewed in the same way that it can be appealed. So it's again just not material, you just need to make a decision based on the planning matters and the information that's before you in the report.
Thank you. We'll go on to questions now. Councillor Young?
Sorry.
Yeah, just a few questions about cycling and parking. Is the cycle storage area, presumably it's going to be covered in lockable? That was a question on that. And then also, is some of the parking, sorry if I've missed it, going to be allocated to car club cars and visitors? Or, particularly I'm thinking about social care staff or people who need to visit for that sort of purpose.
In terms of cycle parking, there are 2 purpose-built cycle stalls proposed on the site, one serving each of the blocks, and that's providing secure covered parking for those properties. In terms of visitor spaces, there's the short stays of parking available on Dibden Road. I think it's around 4 spaces, so they would be available for 2-hour periods during the daytime, and then after 6:30 I think there's no time restriction. So there is parking available on Dibden Road for visitors, but no explicit provision on the actual application side.
So I mentioned car club cars. Could we put in some provision for at least one car club car space?
It's not a policy requirement in this part of the city to provide car club provision, particularly where policy compliant car park spaces are being provided. If this was being promoted as a particular low car or zero car type development, then there would be some opportunity to try and negotiate that, but not in this case.
Thank you. Councillor Harper, you're not allowed to actually say anything on this site or anything, because you came in late.
I know, I'm aware, Chair. I just wanted to declare an interest, and I apologise for being late, but I just wanted to declare an interest in that I'm predetermined on this item because I'm the Cabinet Member for Major Projects and have already given a press statement in support of this development some months ago.
Thank you. Okay, I've got one question. Tracy, when you show us the pictures of the new buildings, you mentioned the flat roofs, and you said something about panels could go on top and stuff like that. Are they definitely going on top, or could we end up with big telegraph masts on there and so the building actually go 300 foot higher than what it is?
We will put a condition on restricting the any apparatus going on, which hasn't been approved.
Yeah.
But the intention is, I think it's probably Flagship's policy, to provide energy through sustainable means, and PV panels and air source heat pumps are something they are positively looking to design into their developments. And these room areas have been identified for that purpose.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sands?
Thank you, Chair. A couple of questions. I really appreciated the shadow diagrams and things, but am I correct in saying that if the factory was still there, that would have had probably a greater shadow impact? Because it was a big blocky building, wasn't it?
It was a big, large building, but I just want to take you back to the satellite photograph. Okay. Yes, it was a large building, and I think if you can see through, this L-shaped wing that I described, did go quite close to that northern boundary, and it was a good, it was a reasonable height, certainly at least 2 stories, perhaps a little higher. And I think you can even see from this photograph here that it is shading to the north. Not sure when this was taken, I can't make this any bigger. However, I don't think it would have been more significant in terms of overshading than what's proposed, because what is proposed is actually in part on this space here, which was more free of large buildings. So yes, there would have been a overshadowing effect, but probably to a lesser degree than what is proposed.
Thank you. Any other questions, Kathy Young?
Yeah, sorry, back to the cycling again. So I can see that it's been considered that there are 24 cycle spaces deficient. When we're calculating those cycle spaces, have we also taken into account that some of the bikes may be cargo bikes or electric bikes and require bulkier use of space? Is that something that is considered? And therefore, actually, if there's just 1 or 2 cargo bikes, it might mean there's more of an issue with deficiency. Considering this is a development that has been praised, and rightly so, for the fact that it's very sustainable, it's in cycling and walking distance and bus journeys from the city centre. That's brilliant. I'm all in favour of this fabulous development. But I would prefer to see us tweak the cycling and parking numbers. It's apparently we're expecting a car per room, but it will be 14 car spaces deficient on that calculation. 1 car calculated for every 1 bed flat, and 2 cars calculated for every 2 bed flat. And they've said on that basis it's 14 car spaces deficient. But considering this is a development where people should be cycling and walking anyway, can we not allocate maybe a little bit more to the cycling and a couple of cars less, and think about possibly a car club car, because some people may not want to own a car themselves. I know it's not a requirement, as you say, but it just would be good to see that and fit in with our sustainable transport policy.
Can I just come back on the question of number of parking spaces, car parking spaces? The comments that county have made in terms of parking relate to their parking policies. They are different to Norwich City's parking policies, which are lower because they do take into account the urban city context, and they also take into account the desire to try and reduce car dependency. So for this site in this location in the city, our car parking standards set a minimum car parking requirement, which is 1-to-1, which would be 48 for a 48 apartment development, but it potentially would allow up to 1.5 car parking spaces per unit, and that would still be something that we would consider to be an acceptable parking level. So with this particular development, we have accepted towards the bottom of that range in parking. A good proportion, I think 35 of the 48 units proposed are one-bedroomed, but there are a number of two-bedroomed ones. The flats are suitable for households between 1 and 4 people. So I think we were mindful of the comments that we've received by local residents about the level of on-street parking in the area, and we wanted to make sure that the site was capable of meeting the demand of the development. So we felt the 48, so the extra 2, the 50, was, gave some flexibility to meet that demand. In terms of the cycle parking, I'd need to double check, but there are 2 very sizable bike stalls proposed. As I've said, a good proportion of the units are one-bedroomed, so I would hope they provide good flexibility for all types of parking provision that new residents may have. Car club, spaces at a premium. We are trying to accommodate the parking demand, the cycling demand, and make good provision for communal open space for the residents. So it may be possible to tweak things, but I think we are satisfied with the arrangement that's been proposed and the provision that it is being made for both cyclists and people who will need also parking.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Councillor.
Yes, I noticed on the previous 2 applications there was a condition 14, well, the last one. No occupation of development hereby permitted shall take place until broadband infrastructure to provide speeds of at least 24 megabytes has been delivered. Not so for this one. I haven't seen that condition before. What prompts it to be included in the single dwellings that we've approved, but not this one?
It's an omission, and probably should have been applied to this one. It's a new Greater Norwich Local Plan requirement, so it's something that ought to be imposed on this scheme, and we would do so. Thank you for.
Yeah. No more questions? Move on to the discussion. Anyone wants to say anything one way or the other? Councillor Sands.
Yeah, I welcome the project. I think it's going to provide some much needed accommodation for single people and perhaps couples and things, and it will make a wonderful addition to this part of the city.
Councillor.
I concur with what Councillor Sands says. We don't often get applications like this, do we?
No.
100% social housing. So, very, very welcome. And I think somewhere in the application here, there was a mention of the bus stop and the bus service of 10A, which is something we don't normally put in there, but that's good as well, because more people using that service. It comes right across the city into Eton, where I am, and then into Crinkleford, and along the way, I think the providers is. I think it's
Saunders,
anyway, long may the providers provide it, but that's good to see that there is a bus service nearby. Perhaps that ought to be in there more often, looking at sustainable transport.
Okay, the recommendation.
Sorry,
Councillor Hampton.
Yeah, and mirroring what the other two have said, that it's nice to have something that you can quite positively support this time. I do appreciate some of the resident concerns about overshadowing some of the community, but from what we've heard, that is perceived in a way relatively limited, and in this case I think it's really clear that the benefits outweigh those concerns. Maybe others that we mentioned about cycle provision, which we always want to maximise, but we've heard this is policy compliant according to our policy that takes precedence really, but to have a site that's 100% affordable homes rent, ground on site, sustainable location, introduction of green space, and safe panels, air source heat pump. I'm very happy to support this application today.
Okay, if there's no one else who wishes to speak, I'll move the recommendation, which is to approve. Have we got a second for that?
Sorry, Chair, just to clarify, are we moving the recommendation with the additional condition around broadband?
Yeah.
Yes. And with the structure not gone on top of the roof? No pylons on top of the flat roof. That'll be in there, will it? That's in there. Okay, thank you. Well, the recommendation's been moved and seconded. Thank you. All those in favour of the recommendation, please show. That's unanimous. We vote Councillor Harbour. Thank you. That's been approved. Thank you. Right, it's now 20 to 1. We've got 3 BT things to do, and we got a report after that on enforcement action. What do people want to do? You want to carry on? Because I know some people have got dietary things they need to eat and stuff, medical wise. Okay, David, if you are. Thank you.
Swap out from Norwich.
Yep.
Okay, thank you for that small break again. We now move on to 4.2. This is an application for a telephone box adjacent to the co-op store to Distillery Square. And I'll ask Matthew if he can take us through the report, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this is two applications considering full and advertisement consent at Distillery Square for the installation of one BT Street Hub and associated advertisements, reference 25-01039F and 25-01040A. So the site is Distillery Square. It's located within the Dereham Road and Distillery Square District Retail Centre on the southern side of Dereham Road. Adjacent sites include a co-op food store, Wilco, which is a mechanics garage serving cars, and a car park as well serving the cooperative store. Opposite the site are a number of smaller commercial units including restaurants, shops, cafes, barbers, and then they have many have first floor residential above them as well. So Dereham Road is one of the main arterial roads serving the city centre, connecting to the A47 ring road. The proposal is for a installation of a BT Street Hub shown on the above plans and elevations, as well as the digital mock-up on the bottom left-hand corner. In terms of the unit itself, it would be 2,986 millimetres, so just shy of 3 metres in height, 123 millimetres in width, and 350 millimetres in depth. So it's marginally taller than general associated street infrastructure in the area. There is an existing BT phone box on site as well, which would be replaced as part of this, but that's not being considered as part of this proposal, although that is the intentions of the scheme. In addition, there are a number of small post boxes and street lighting as well in the vicinity. The plans show adequate spacing for the placement of the unit, which is just located here in the middle. There's a 3 metre gap from the pavement, from the edge of the unit to the edge of the road, allowing safe passage for pedestrians, wheelchair users, or pushchairs, or people pushing bicycles, riding bicycles, sufficient space to manoeuvre around the unit, sufficient space from any of the other street infrastructure in the area as well, and adequate distance from street lighting and traffic lights to allow safe passage over the road at the pedestrian crossing point. Further context of the site shows the existing BT phone box there, the 2 post boxes, and the crossing point on Dereham Road. It would be this area of paving where the bricks are. That would be the placement of the new BT Hub unit. As you can see, it would be suitably distanced from the road, allowing safe passage of pedestrians. This is a view facing northwest towards some of the other commercial units on the opposite side of Dereham Road. So the proposal itself is compliant with planning policy. The policy DM10 does outline for development for provision of upgrading existing infrastructure for telecommunications networks and any other associated infrastructure that would require planning permission. We do feel that this is policy compliant. It does state the policy that any proposal would be supported where there was no unacceptable impact on the character and appearance of the area or residential amenity of the safe and satisfactory functioning of the highway. This has been considered within the report and is considered acceptable on these grounds given the commercial nature of the site.
Thank you. Any questions? No, we'll move on to discussion. No, we'll move on to the recommendation. The recommendation is to approve. I'll move that recommendation. Have you got a second?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You've got 2 applications under consideration.
Yeah.
So you'll have to do both separately. No, I think you can do both.
They'll both at the same time. Everyone understand that?
Yeah.
Thank you. All those in favour, please show. It's recorded vote.
Yep, so those voting in favour are Councillor Driver, Councillor Mike Sands, Councillor Lubbock, Councillor Laws, Councillor Hampton and Councillor Harper.
Thank you. Those against? And extensions, please. Thank you.
And abstentions, that's Councillor Young and Councillor Knight.
Thank you. That one's been agreed. And we'll move straight on to the next one, which is, I believe, exactly the same, except in a different location. So I don't know if you just want to talk about the location. Can we do that? Is that okay, David? Yeah, fine. Matthew, if you could take us through the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, as Chair said, this is the second of 3 applications, part of the same scheme essentially, so the same proposal but in a different location in the city. This is for application 25-01123F and 25-01124A for the installation of a street hub and associated advertisement. So the site is located on the north side of Aylsham Road, situated outside so there's an incorrect plan on there. However,
Emma, we will allow
Just very.
it. Thank you.
okay, so the locations again, so the same proposal as the last application for the street hub with double-sided advertisement. As you can see on the bottom left-hand corner, that'll be a visual representation of the street hub in situ. Directly to the north of the proposed site, there are a small number of commercial businesses, including an active barbers. The area is somewhat used for informal parking, although the site is controlled by double yellow lines. Whilst there are parking cars that use the site for parking, considering its unofficial use, there is, in our eyes, no conflict with the use of the land for the installation of the street hub. The street hub would be located close to the edge of Aylsham Road. However, it's worth noting, as indicated on the red illustration there, that any users of the telephone unit on the side of the BT hub would be between, the street hub would always be between the road and the user. So there's no conflict with the road user, so the unit user being close to proximity to the road that would risk stepping out in front of traffic. The advertisement screens would be located on the width ends, both fronting Aylsham Road on either direction. This is the site in situ. This is taken from the entrance to the little supermarket. The unit would be approximately where my red cursor is, where the parked car is as existing. Consider that this is suitable distance from the junction that would not interfere with any visibility of the road. Any cars emerging would be looking to their right if turning left, and therefore would not impede with the visibility, or the unit would not impede their visibility. Any cars turning right, there is sufficient visibility display to look past the unit and associated advertisement in order to turn safely to cross the road, turning right. Again, this is a slightly closer image, and it would be in front of this traffic light, street light where the car is parked. As you can see, a number of parked cars, those are on double yellow lines where cars would generally not be limited to park. So therefore, there is no considered conflict with parking arrangements for the placement of the unit. This is looking back toward the little supermarket. Again, the placement of the unit would be approximately where the red cursor is. This is looking directly toward the junction with the little supermarket. The pavements are wide, which does allow for such infrastructure to be placed in this location without interfering with the safe passage of pedestrians or larger users of the pedestrian highway, such as with pushchairs, wheelchairs, or walking bicycles. There is a uncontrolled pedestrian crossway that is only marked with an island and tactile paving that is further south of the proposed development site. However, again, given the placement of the unit, it is not considered that this would interfere with visibility of the pedestrians crossing this platform, given the visibility display would be appropriate, particularly for drivers travelling north, and drivers travelling south would have appropriate time to view any pedestrians in the crossing. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, brilliant, Murphy. Anyone got any questions on this one? No, any discussion? No, Councillor Young?
Yeah, I'm just concerned that for drivers who are pulling out of that junction, they can see, they will be able to see it, so they could be distracted as the image changes. And when you say it's not near that crossing, can drivers still see it as they're approaching the crossing? Could they be, could their eyes be distracted? I want to be reassured they can't.
So it would be visible on approach. I think it would be wrong to kind of deny that it would be visible. I think given the distance between the units, so if you're talking about travelling down Aylsham Road on approach to the pedestrian crossing, there is appropriate time and also the visibility display that would allow for that to be seen, as passing. So it would obviously be seen, but there is appropriate time and distance, suitable separation from the unit to the pedestrian crossing that would allow for safe use of the highway. It's also been viewed by the highways officer with Norfolk County Council that the distance is appropriate for the location, and that the conditions included in the reports would be suitable in order to mitigate any harm, which includes the provision of restricting the video output, so there'll be no video, no moving images, and also the time that it would take for each advert to change, so that it's not kind of overly distracting for the driver.
Okay, thank you. I'll move the recommendation. I think there's two on this one as well, yes?
Yeah.
I'll move them both at the same time. We've got a second for that?
Yeah.
Thank you. Any discussion, anyone? No? All in favour, please show.
So that is a recorded vote. So that's Councillor Driver, Mike Sands, Councillor Lubbock, Councillor Laws, Councillor Hampden and Councillor Harper.
Thank you. Anyone against?
And that's Councillor Young.
And abstentions.
And that is Councillor Knight.
Thank you, so that's been approved. Thank you. We'll move on to the third one of these, which is Queen's Road. And if Matthew, if you just tell us about where it is again and stuff, I don't think you need to go through what the scene is. Thank you.
Chair, so this is the third of the three applications for this development. This is application 25-01125F and 25-01126A for the installation of the BT Street Hub and associated advertisement. This site being outside the Travel Lodge at 14 Queen's Road. So again, primarily drawing your attention to the image on the bottom left corner, with the unit being the same as the previous two applications. This will be located on a wide stretch of pedestrian footpath between an existing set of Sheffield bike stands and a small area of soft landscaping. As shown on the site plan above, the unit would be in line with the Sheffield stands. Any user of the interactive interface on the side would have their back to the buildings and to the north, so would therefore not be between the unit and the road. In terms of the site, this is Queen's Road. It is a fairly busy road that forms part of the inner city ring road. Directly to the side of the pavement is a bus lane only that turns toward the City Bus Station. The adjacent 2 lanes travel forward or can provide a left turn further down the road. There's suitable distance between the proposed and any drivers of the road that we feel that this is suitable in terms of mitigating any distraction to drivers. There's also considered not to be sufficient detriment to visibility display in terms of being able to view the changing traffic lights ahead of the pedestrian crossing. This is a controlled pedestrian crossing, unlike the Ayrton Road site, so any users of the pedestrian footway would likely be waiting until all cars would come to a complete stop. This is an image of the site facing northwest toward the roundabout at St Stephen Street. Again, the proposed development site would be where my red cursor is, outside the Travel Lodge and Asian Supermarket. As you can see, there is suitable space for users of the pedestrian highway. It's not anticipated that any significant use of the highway would be on the area between the Sheffield stands and the street, with potentially with the exception of collecting bicycles. And it's an image of the site facing southwest toward the road. An image of the site facing south toward the pedestrian crossing. This is an image of the site facing southeast from an area of the city wall. I would also like to take this opportunity to mention to members that we did have a late representation made from the conservation design team that did express their concern with this application due to the visual impact on the character and appearance of the city centre conservation area and within the setting of the city wall, which itself is a scheduled monument. This is the image of the city wall facing the southeast. This has been assessed within the committee report as being of less than substantial impact given the distance and proximity between this heritage asset and the proposed location at approximately 40 metres. We therefore conclude that the proposal is acceptable, that there are no significant impacts on the character and appearance of the conservation area or setting of any heritage assets, and that the development does not harmfully distract from users of the road that would be detrimental to public safety of the highway.
Thank you, Matthew. Questions on this one, anyone? No? Discussion? No? I'll move the recommendation. The recommendation is to approve. Have I got a second for that? That's for both recommendations. Councillor Sands, thank you. All those in favour, please show.
So again, that's a recorded vote. So that's Councillors Driver, Mike Sands, Councillor Lubbock, Councillor Laws, Councillor Hampton, and Councillor Harper.
Anyone against? Abstentions, please. Thank you.
So that's Councillors Young and Knight.
And that's been approved as well. Thank you, Matthew. Right, we'll move on to the last item on the agenda today, and that is the report.
Chair, I'm so sorry, but as a last minute sub for this meeting, I'm afraid I've got to get back to work now.
Okay.
So I'm already late for the meeting, so I need to go. Apologies.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Some lunch.
Well, we're going to move on to the report. This is the enforcement report. We have an update. This is just to be noted. We've got the cabinet member, Councillor Giles, just going to bring us into the report. I think we can be quite quick on this really. You should all read the report by now anyway, and it's only going to be noted and it will be cabinet. So, Councillor Giles, you want to open the speech?
Thanks, Chair. I'll be concise. We've had a long meeting and then pass over to David. So thank you. This report brings the 2024-25 Planning Enforcement Performance Report and the draft Planning Enforcement Policy. With regards to the former, I draw members' attention to paragraph 12, which sets out the resourcing adjustments to the team, which the planning enforcement function is seeing. And paragraphs 13 to 19, which set out performance across the year. I will, in due course, pass over to David to talk through the tables as set out and is happy to take any questions. With regards to the draft planning enforcement policy appendix to the performance report, this is the first iteration of such policy following a recommendation from internal audit that we should cease relying on the council-wide corporate performance report, corporate enforcement policy, for planning enforcement. This is in accordance with best practice as set out in the MPPF. I would draw members' attention to the principles of our planning enforcement policy as set out in paragraph 2, seeking to strike a consistent and appropriate balance between resolving breaches of planning control informally in the first instance, while taking firm enforcement action where necessary to uphold the credibility of the planning system. The policy seeks to take a risk-based approach to prioritising cases in accordance with urgency and harm. I would draw members' attention to paragraph 7, which divides types of cases into 3 categories for prioritisation. I'll now pass over to David for further details, and we are happy to take comments and questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone's still on the mic. Oh no, that's me. Right. I'm not going to take much of your time up, other than to give you a very brief update. Paragraph 12, the resourcing. We have actually been able to offer the additional post to a candidate who has provisionally accepted, and the provisional contract has gone out to them, so hopefully they will be starting at some point in February of the new year, so that's good news. In terms of the tables, I think that the point that I just want to stress is that table 3 and table 4 deal with the formal notices. But that is only one measure of the success of the service, because the service of the notice is basically an indication that we failed to negotiate and resolve an issue. And formal action is only a matter of last resort. What paragraph 19 does illustrate is that the majority of the cases that we do actually close down are as a result of negotiation. So I just wanted to note those 2 points. And if there are any questions on any of the tables, then I will try my best to either answer them in this meeting, or if I can't, I'll get back to members afterwards.
Thank you. Anyone want to ask any questions? I've got one. I just want to know the whole report here, the cabinet member or you, David, got any worries about anything in this report that we're actually going to send to cabinet and to look forward to?
Not from my point of view, it's not so no.
Okay. Is there anything else you would have liked in this, Adam, which is we haven't got in, or?
Thanks. I did mean to, no is the general answer.
Good.
Just on page 170 on category 3, at the bottom of the bullet points, it says target for investigation. That should be target for site visit in accordance with what's under categories 1 and 2.
Okay.
So that would be correct before it goes to cabinet.
Just to come back on that, Chair, the enforcement policy basically structures what we already do.
Yeah.
There's nothing, we're not expanding our enforcement powers because we already do that. It's just giving structure and pointing basically members of the public and officers towards something that we can say, well, this is what we're going to do, these are the timescales that we're going to do it in. So it isn't introducing anything new, it's just providing substance to what we actually already do.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to add, Chair, the report said to go to December cabinets, that should have been January cabinets, so apologies for that mistake.
Okay, no problem. Any questions, anyone on your read the report? Thank you. And we're noted that. We'll look forward to it come policy or whatever we'll do when it go through cabinet, I suppose. Okay, that's the end of the meeting. Thank you all for your time. We'll see you in the meeting. Have